This is the OMG Book Show with William O'Day, episode number 2.
Welcome to the OMG Book Show, where it's all about taking you into the brains of fantastic authors. No scalpels required. It's more than an interview, it's an experience. And now, your host, William O'Day.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the show today. I am super excited to bring you today's guest, WJ Lundy. He is an amazing author that writes the Whiskey Tango Foxtrot series of books, which when I read them a year or two ago, absolutely blew my mind. I mean, if you haven't checked these out, do yourself a favor, block out a week or a weekend or however long it takes to get through these 6, I think, maybe 7 books now, because you, like me, will most likely be absolutely riveted, will totally ignore all of your usual life's responsibilities. Yes, the other people in your life are probably going to be upset about it, so make sure maybe you need to clear it with them first. But do yourself that favor, check these books out. They're absolutely amazing. And so we have a great discussion with him today. Some of the things that we talk about are how he got started in writing and how what started out as him winning some awards as in his younger days in the middle grade, how that kind of transformed as he read other things, and then his writing changed to reflect those other things. And then apparently his teachers didn't want those stories to even be in school. So you'll find out the details on that. On top of that, we also get into what it's going to take to achieve world peace. We've actually solved it here on the show today. We're going to let the answer out, and it'll be great because now that the answer is here, I'm sure we can just all get to implementing it as soon as possible. So without further ado, let's get to the interview. So I'm super pumped today to be speaking with WJ Lundy. He's an author who writes books that, to use his terminology, turn people into primal raving fans. I mean, like zombies for brains. These fans are the same way about his books, including myself. I'll mention it probably several times in the show, but I've gone through his books like crazy. So WJ, welcome to the show. Thanks for being here.
Hey, thanks for the invite. I appreciate it.
Yep, happy to do it. I wanted to have you on the show because a couple of years ago, I think it was 2015, I happened to discover the first of your books in the WTF series, and immediately, I think I disappeared for 3 days. I came out 3 days later. My wife was a little upset. She was like, "Hey, what happened for that 3 days? Where were you?" And I was like, "Oh my goodness, this series, it's amazing."
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I get that a lot. It's not intentional, but they are kind of written to where I guess they hold you down, and I try to always, it's probably my writing style, because when I write, I never like to end a chapter on a low point. I always like to end it high, because for me, it's easier. The way my work schedule is, I don't have these long writing blocks. So when I get a chance to come back and write, if it's in a peak action sequence, I can run right back into it again. If it's in that real, that lull valley of writing, that's where it's boring, and it's hard for me as a writer as it is a reader, to stick with it.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Yeah. You're like, where do you kind of jump back in yourself on the writing side?
Right. So if you have your character in just this crazy messed up situation where it's life or death, and then you drop it there, even though you don't want to, because your brain wants to keep going. If you put the stop there, you're going to just constantly think about it all day long until you can get back. And then you're eager to get back to write probably as fast as, a reader is to get back to start reading again.
Yeah, I like that approach. It sounds like kind of as the writer, you're hooking yourself, and in the same way, the reader is following along.
Right. And there's other methods, but I never stop writing at the end of a chapter. I hear a lot of writers say they want to finish this chapter so they can go to bed, or their goal is to finish this chapter so they can go do this for tomorrow. And I'm like, but then you got to start over with a brand new chapter, and where do you go from there? Right.
You're kind of starting. It's like a mini blank slate each time.
Yeah, so if you're like watching an action movie and you're at that peak of the action and you pause it and you run to the bathroom, the whole time you're in the bathroom, you want to get back out and unpause.
Right.
So that's kind of how I am with writing. If I get to that peak of the action and I stop there, then I know I'm not going to procrastinate. All I want to do is get back.
Well, fortunately, people have Kindles and numerous devices, so they can take those to the bathroom with them these days.
Yep. I mean, I can't say for every reader, but I hope that's what keeps people hooked. So once you start one of my books, it's hard to put it down because I try to keep those highs high.
Yeah, I can vouch for that as a reader, a fan. The highs are very high. And I mean, it's interesting at the same time, the highs, in a different sense equal the lows, because you're just like, oh my gosh, these characters like Brad Thompson, Sean and Brooks, some of the other cast is like, there's just no way they can get out of this. So it's like as a reader, you're the anxiety, you're worried. And, of course you want to keep going to figure it out.
Yeah. The stress level is definitely high.
One of the things there's many things I like about the books, but I like the unique nomenclature you've come up with for your version of zombies, like the primal. How did you land on that? Where did that come from?
The whole way the series came together, at first I was in Afghanistan when I started writing it. It was just something I put together during lulls, boring times. But for me, the simple slow crawl walking zombies isn't enough. I mean, I've been in the military too long.
Right.
I know it would be like, it would just be too easy.
Right. There's no speed, no problem.
Yeah. I mean, we'd have to start issuing game limits and stuff because the deer hunters would be out there all day taking zombies.
Right. You have to issue tags and things.
Yeah. So I wanted something that was different. And to me, a rage virus would be the ultimate, just full on craziness where they're going to run at you and not stop. And then when I looked up rabies, so that's rabies, and then it was a primal rage. So primalis rabia was the name of the disease I came up with. So to shorten that, they're primals.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things I loved about the kind of the description and the origins of that is there was what seems to be, of course it's fiction, but a biological kind of sensibly, I'm not a doctor, but a sensibly biological reason for what could be happening to these people.
I'm not a doctor either, but I do throw things off. I've had a couple guys that are medical experts, and I bugged them with questions and asking things. So there are little tidbits all the way through, like the rabies virus. It used to be hydrophobia because they're afraid of water. So I do have some things in there where there's fear of water or these unnatural things. So it all ties back to a sort of rabies hybrid. Worst case scenario, I guess, transmission to man.
Yeah, I think that was cool. I think being a writer myself and, not being a doctor, and you try to create a sense of verisimilitude in certain aspects of it, just so, like the 5% of doctors out there are going to be like, oh, this is not true. But 95% of people are going to be like, whoa, this is so real. Yeah,
I've got some medical friends that are just like, man, if you could get a rabies virus to mutate. I mean, and you think about a rabid wolf, and that's really what a primal is they're just a rabid wolf. But then I threw in this stuff where the reason they're kind of zombie-like is because the organs are protected. So they can be killed traditionally, but it just takes a lot more.
Right. You mentioned a few minutes ago that you had started writing that first book while out in Afghanistan. Is that where did you kind of jump into writing late in life? Did it start as a kid? Where did your kind of passion or the idea that you wanted to write, where did that come from?
I actually won some little youth writing awards when I was in school.
That's cool.
Middle school on, but they never went anywhere. Then when I went into high school, when other kids were reading, Huck Finn and that, I was reading Charlie Bike, these Vietnam, sniper books, Carlos Hathcock sniper books. So my stories started sounding like that. And of course I didn't get a lot of praise from teachers. I usually just got my stories confiscated.
Oh, they're like, we will not be reading this aloud in class.
Yeah. So when I joined the military, I joined the Army right out of high school. I mean, I actually joined when I was 17. I finished my senior year and then shipped out. And I still kept just scribbling little things in notebooks. And I wrote stories here and there, but I don't even know where they're at anymore. There's a couple I know that were good. I wish I still had. But when I got to Afghanistan, the tempo was really high. We worked 6 days a week, 12-hour shifts, and downtime was pretty much sleep and go to chow, whatever. So I just started writing in my notebook just silly ideas and concepts. But I was in charge of a facility security group, so we were in charge of all the perimeters of the camp. And we used to get high-level State Department guys would come through on tours, and they kept asking me, because The Walking Dead was a hit right then. I think we were only on season 1 or 2. So it was still a relatively new show. And they would ask, well, what's your contingency plan for zombie attack? Because that's part of security is like, well, what do you do if there's a truck bomber? What do you do if there's that? What if you do if you get an insurgent in the wire? And then there would just always be some, smart ass kid from wherever. And he would ask me that, and I would just joke and really had nothing. Then one day I was like, you know what? I'm going to write him a plan. So I wrote a plan, put it in a binder, and then I had one guy ask me, and I was like, oh, it's right here, sir. And I ripped it open and kind of blew him away. And then I started turning that into stories. And then I didn't even tell anybody while I was there. I kind of, when I got back, I let a few friends read it. And they're like, wow, you should publish this. And I was like, yeah, I don't think it would ever hit. And then I found out about the self-publishing platforms, and I put it on there and it took off.
Yeah, that the kind of advent and transformation to self-publishing has just, I mean, it's changed people's lives. It's been, I'm a writer myself, and I think if I had to be stuck in the traditional kind of pursuing an agent and all that stuff, I don't think I ever would have done it. It just doesn't sound appealing.
Right? Yeah, it's frustrating. Even with now that I think I've got a little bit of a footprint out there where I've built up some fans and stuff. It's still hard for me to sell a story. So
you mean to the traditional publishing world?
Right. Like they call and they ask, hey, do you got any ideas, or what are you working on? And I've sold audiobooks rights a lot, but as far as selling a new idea, it's still something that's out there, and I'll definitely pursue it, but it's hard. So I can imagine how hard it is, right off the green.
Right. I'm surprised by that. You have an established fan base, and I guess it's just takes the right combination of publishing house and your idea maybe to click. That's it.
Yeah, it's that, and there's a balance on my end now too. So I know I can put out a book and be successful and reward my readers, and I have a dedicated fan base. And it's like, do I really want to take something away from them, and put it out in another world that
right.
I lose all that control, like with pricing and release dates and how they distribute it, things. So
yeah. Well, it sounds like it is. Is writing a full-time job for you or part-time?
Yeah, it's under 30% time.
Oh, you got a lot of other stuff going on, huh?
Yeah, I'm still in the military. I'm a reservist now, so that takes up some time, and then I work as a software engineer for a major manufacturing company full time when I'm not doing my reserve stuff. So writing comes in like bursts. I can sometimes get into this mode and I'll spend every waking hour doing it, and other times I try to just do a page a day.
Yeah, I found that's I'm kind of also still discovering my own process, is like discovering the key to consistency while fitting in all the other obligations of life. It doesn't seem to be very easy.
Right. Yeah. And I get scatterbrained too. I'll work on so many projects at the same time, and they all seem to go nowhere.
Maybe these are just the seeds. Maybe they'll all sprout at once, and a year from now you'll be like, oh my gosh, I got too much going on.
Right. Yeah. That's kind of like the Whiskey Tango Foxtrot series. That's obviously my bread and butter.
Yeah. That is absolutely, to everyone out there listening, if you don't already know, I'm sure many of people who will be listening to this do. That is just a fantastic, rip roaring ride, in a post-apocalyptic world. It's amazing. Thanks for putting it out there.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. I was surprised by it. I mean, I didn't even tell anybody. I self-published it for almost 2 months. I kept it to myself because I'm one of those guys that's not good on failure. So,
right. You're like, if this bombs, then no one has to know.
Yeah, I'll just let that go. And then when it blew up, I was like, wow, I got to get another one. So I did Tales of the Forgotten. Kind of when I was in a transition, I just finished a year-long deployment, and I was adapting back to family life and civilian life, and I started putting Tales of the Forgotten together. And that was kind of my big test. Is this going to go somewhere? And then that was, I think, the first one that got up in, the number ones with Amazon, and it really took off. So then Only the Dead Live Forever, the third book, was a no-brainer. And then from then on, I think I was putting out about one a year or two a year. And then I kind of stopped for no reason other than I didn't want to dilute the story too much.
Meaning like take it in places it didn't need to go, or what do you mean?
I didn't want to feel like I was putting out books just because I could.
Oh yeah, just like here's another story now, here's more money,
yeah,
that kind of thing.
Right, yeah, and I really liked the characters, I liked the storyline, and I had to have something in my head to where it was worth putting down and not just, driving it off into the weeds somewhere and letting it die. And I got a deal working with my agent on the Invasion trilogy, which is a whole nother type of apocalypse story.
Yeah. I think I've gotten to the first one so far in that trilogy.
Yeah, and that one's a little bit more slower starting just because of the setup on it. And I got a 3-book deal to write that.
Oh, so
for
that
audio.
Is that traditionally published then, you're saying?
No, the paperback and ebook was still me, but Audible bought the rights right away.
Oh, that's cool.
So I had delivery dates with them, so that kind of put me out and forced me to get to work.
that can help.
Yep. So once I finished that, then I went back and did Bound by Honor, which I think is probably one of my favorite ones of that series.
That is, I believe that's the latest one out, book 7. Is that right?
Yep, book 7.
Yeah, I think it's amazing. Just being able to maintain the energy and the drive from book to book to book. And once you get past like 3 or 4 books, like there's something really special there to be able to maintain that. And clearly, like, having read it myself and agreeing with this and just seeing reviews from others, like you really hit it out of the park there. That's amazing.
Yeah, there's some diehard fans with that series. The hate mail I get when I kill somebody off, and which I don't kill off many main guys. I mean, they're all in peril. They could all go at any time, but
right, no guarantees, people.
Yeah, there's no guarantees. And I mean, even with the relationship building, I'll have, why haven't you had Brad and Chelsea get together? Or how could you have done that to Gunner? And I think Something to Fight For when he died. Or I should give spoilers, but I enjoy it. It's kind of brought me, I guess, a little reader family. I know all the names now. And I mean, the people that contact me and we get back and forth. And yeah, it's definitely been fun. Yeah. It's still not I'm not a full-time writer. So, I mean, for indie success, I think I've done pretty well for myself. But
oh, yeah, no doubt about that.
It's still a side gig. It's a hobby for me now. Maybe that's why I'm able to do it, because I don't consider it my job.
That is the thing, how when art becomes occupation, sometimes everything grinds to a halt. I've seen that. Well, I was just thinking about, you had mentioned it a minute or two ago there, the Only the Dead Live Forever. I think that was the 3rd book in the WTF series. For me personally, so far anyway, I think that one just stood a little bit above the others in my own kind of excitement levels or whatever. And I was trying to think about what made that one different for me personally. And I think what I landed on was just this idea of being out on an oil rig, like in the middle of the ocean, and just it's a unique environment that not many, people like myself or probably many people out there have any experience with, but also the extreme isolation and like, there's nowhere to go. You have to make it work in this kind of multi-tiered little space. And what made you land on the idea of an oil rig kind of out in the middle of nowhere? It was
different. Well, first of all, it was just the vastness and the isolation of Afghanistan in itself. Like, where are you going to go?
Right.
And I tried to build off of that. And then I just researching the area, and oil rigs is just always, kind of when you think about zombie apocalypse anyway, where are you going to go? It's like islands and oil rigs. So I was like, that was one thing I bled off of. And then once I started getting into the concepts and the ideas of it, it really kind of scared the hell out of me when you think about what would it be like to be on an oil rig that's infested.
Yeah.
Like, where do you go?
Yeah, that's exactly it. It's like you can run like 10 feet and maybe go to a different level and try that, but you can't just kind of like pick a direction and run out into the old yonder. There's nowhere.
You're trapped. And then they're all over you. You're surrounded. There's no real way off. And I think I threw in a storm too to make it even worse. But yeah, that was a fun one to write. That was real. I mean, there's some different aspects to it, but that was fun. And then I don't know if you've got the book 4 yet, but the Walking in the Shadow of Death.
Is this I've read, I think through the 6th one, which I haven't read the Bound by Honor yet, but is this the one where they end up in Canada and kind of meet some of the locals, and then we get back to the human element of like maybe the primals aren't the only problem? Yeah, the Newfoundland. So yeah, that was where I started getting into the humans and how do you deal with culture and, just civilization trying to get on and get by. So it takes me to different places. Yeah, it's very cool. One of the things I liked, another thing, I mean, there's plenty of things I liked about it, but one of the things I liked was you established fairly early on, and maybe it was in book 2, if I remember right, that these people, the Taliban, who are mortal enemies of our soldiers over there, And then faced by this new greater danger, it's like, oh, you know what? We can come together. We can get over this. Let's push it through together. Like that kind of message of like hope and a future that works together, you know?
Right. That's one of my common themes, probably in all my books, actually, is all this division and divisiveness. I always say, hey, we won't come together and unite till aliens attack.
Yeah, right.
It'll take that much to realize that we're all one human race. And
right.
That's kind of how my common theme is from this. Like, yeah, the Taliban's their enemy until something's after all of them, and it's indiscriminate. Yeah, then they are forced to work together. And the Invasion trilogy I have is the same way. I mean, there's all these different factions, but once there's a monster worse than people out there, then it takes that for them to all come together.
So I don't know. Does this mean we're hoping for an alien invasion, or just that's what it could be like?
Oh no, I'm not. You mean in real life?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't need that.
No, I don't think any of us do. I often wonder if we ran into aliens. Yeah, would we even recognize it, or would they be nice, or even care? Would we be like ants? I don't know. What do you think would happen there?
It doesn't make sense to me that why would someone travel that far and put up that many resources just to go and be a dick? You know?
Yeah, it would be like us like flying to Mars to then swat an ant. It's like, what's the point?
Yeah, why would you want to do that? It seems like their motivations would be the same as ours. We wouldn't have motivations to travel, to another planet just to go and, well, maybe somebody would, but to go there and take over and be a jerk. It seems like it would be more of a friendship or a kinship.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. It's like even a person. You wouldn't walk across a street to step on an ant. I mean, that's just...
Right. You don't walk over to your neighbor's house to kick in his door and take all his stuff. So why would aliens travel, a millennia or whatever they do to come here and just take all our stuff? It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I'm with you.
But that doesn't make a good science fiction movie, though.
Yeah, it's true. They're like, the aliens show up and everything's peaceful in the end. And yeah.
Yeah, they give us the secret to a glorious life and then they leave. Yeah, that would make a good movie.
Yeah, absolutely. A terrible movie, but a glorious life. So if there's any aliens out there listening, let me know. I'm available to listen. So you've got two series going on right now, the WTF series and then the Alien Invasion series. And between those two, or really all the books that you've written, do you have one in particular that stands out for you as being your favorite?
Yeah, that's a tough call. Like I know I enjoyed writing the Bound by Honor book probably the most, just because I'm like a Louis L'Amour fan and the old school westerns, and that's how I envision the apocalypse as being more like a western than anything else.
Right.
So, and then that has a lot of messages in it to me about survival and taking care of the community. And then when we come together, we're stronger than, taken from everybody. I guess my favorite ones to write, but Walking in the Shadow of Death was, I guess, a fun one too. The fourth book. Yeah, it's tough. It's a tough call. The one I'm working on right now, it's completed. I'm just trying to find a home for it.
Yeah, home for it, meaning within a series, or what do you mean?
It's out with publishers right now. They're reading it, and we're just trying to figure out what we're going to do with it.
Oh, that's awesome.
That kind of it's not apocalyptic, but it does deal with like world conflicts and things like that. So that one I've been working on for a few years. So I guess it's kind of special to me. So we'll see what happens with that.
Oh, well, good luck with that. I hope to be able to see it out on the shelves or electronic shelves at some point.
Yeah, at some point I'm hoping. Yeah, that I kind of want to get into that hybrid where get a couple of traditionally published ones out there. So
yeah, it seems like in this kind of modern day and age of publishing, there's a lot of people, even on both sides, starting out on the self-publishing side and jumping to traditional, and then vice versa as well.
Right. Yeah, it's a hard give or take. Like I don't know, it's hard to decide how you want to go at it. You can be fairly successful being indie. But do you want to take that turn and go like full pro, I guess?
Hey, I'd say you're a full pro already, but yeah, I do know what you mean. So whether we call it a full pro or an indie pro or whatever, you've definitely been writing for quite a while. So what would you say is the best thing about being a writer, about spinning yarns?
The best thing.
Does anything stand out for you?
I guess there's highs and lows to it. I don't know if there's like a best thing. I think one cool thing is when you can actually put a story on paper and people read it and enjoy it, and they come back and tell you how they enjoy it.
Yeah.
So that's a big highlight. but there's lows with that too, because sometimes they're really mean and they tell you how they absolutely hated it or whatnot. So there's that aspect. So I guess the best part is tied in with the good part. I'm not a person that, like, in my local hometown here, nobody would know I write. I mean, there's people I work with that wouldn't know. So that's not like a big part of
kind of your local persona.
Yeah, I don't wear like the cool hat and hang out in coffee shops with my laptop or anything. And I write, but it doesn't define me. Not yet. I mean, that'd be pretty cool if it did. I'll take a Stephen King moniker anytime, but right now that's not me.
Oh, well, maybe, coming soon, you'll be wearing like a velvet jacket and smoking one of those long cigarette things.
Yes. Yeah, I would have no issues with doing that. It's just right now it's not me. So I think probably more it's the coolest part. I mean, I've been in pubs, like, because I travel out with the military, and I've been in a bar somewhere and we just start talking about something, and then books will come up and whatever. And the guy's like, "Oh yeah, I've heard of you." And he'll pull out his phone and pop my book up and show it to me. And I'm like, wow, that's pretty cool.
That is cool. Yeah, I totally agree. Like getting, I've written a few stories that, you get reactions from readers that you're like, well, I thought I did a pretty good job. But then the response that you got back was like not on the same level of what you thought you delivered. It's pretty amazing that way.
Yeah, there is that satisfaction. No, you weren't wasting your time.
Yeah.
Because I know there's a lot of guys that do put out these stories and they put their heart and soul into them and they just don't take. And I feel bad for them, but
yeah, that's hard.
It's kind of like me. I mean, I could sit in my attic and probably paint a picture all day and it would be utter crap and I wouldn't be able to sell it. There's a point where am I going to just sit in my attic and keep doing these pictures for me, or do I realize that it's not my thing? Maybe I should move on to carpentry or something else.
Right. Well, at least, paint a few pictures, maybe cover one wall before you make that call.
Right. And that's what I said. This can be a really, Amazon's opened up a lot of opportunities, but it also can be very cruel.
Yeah.
And you can see some guys that will talk about, I mean, I get them all the time, and I try to be receptive to everyone. They want me to read their story, and I've gotten to a point where I try not to do that anymore, just not to be a jerk or anything, but I had some issues where I read someone's story, and then later on they're like, "Hey, you stole my story." I was like, no. Come on, bro.
That's the nightmare I think that everybody has, and you feel like, oh, that would never happen, but I guess it does sometimes, huh?
You get that, and the side part of it is they put a lot of work, and people don't realize how much effort you can actually put into writing a story, especially if you're really taking pride in your craft and properly editing it and running it through all these rounds and paying the money and having it properly formatted. And you do all this groundwork and then you drop it out there and you sell 10 copies and nothing happens with it and it bottoms out in the ranks. So
yeah, it's amazing kind of project. Each and every one has its own challenges. And it's like you're saying, I think my first book took me 8 months and they're a little bit faster now. But it's this massive, massive investment and you have no idea what's going to happen when you're on the other side.
Yeah, you're stressed out. That's a fact. It gets me. And some of the readers can be, even with price points and things, there's so much that goes into it, but they talk, oh, I won't pay $2.99 for that. I'm like, really? I gave you 8 months of my life for this.
There's a lot of sweat in that Kindle right there.
Yeah. And I was like, and that's the price of a Monster energy drink or a cup of coffee. And you're telling me it's just too much for you. So. Yeah,
well, I think every kind of reader and writer has kind of their approaches to it. And so it sounds like what you've done successfully and the goal is kind of connecting with the people that connect with you, right?
Right. Yeah, that's kind of my thing. I try to be open and not isolate myself from people. And we have fun conversations on social media and back and forth. And I guess that's a fun part. That's probably the part I spend too much time on right now.
It is so easy, right? To kind of, you jump into Facebook or Twitter or something, and then all of a sudden the sun's going down and you're like, what happened?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I wanted to ask about, obviously, your military service is a big part of your identity and as a main character and kind of stories focused around that. Is Staff Sergeant Brad Thompson your protagonist in the WTF series? Is he you? Is he elements of you? How closely do you identify with your main character there?
Yeah, he's not me at all.
Oh, no. Okay.
No. I get people that tell me that, but no, he's definitely not me.
Wait, are you Sean or Brooks?
No, I'm no character in there.
Oh, okay.
I'm not even close to that cool.
Hey, it's good to be humble. That's right.
Yeah, I've never tried to put myself in there. I don't write about myself, but Thompson's probably like pieces of the best guys I've known in the military is how I envision him. So I know a couple guys, I won't throw their names out there, but guys I've served with in the Army in the 90s. And I was active Army for 8 years before I went in the Navy. And he's just kind of the best pieces of everybody. The humble leader, approachable leader. When you're an NCO in the Army, a non-commissioned officer, your job is to take care of others. It's always you put your soldiers first. And that's kind of just the way I picture he's not perfect. He obviously has all his faults, but yeah, he's not me for sure.
Awesome. Well, we're getting near the end of the show, and that could mean only one thing. Welcome to the Rorschach round, where we use ambiguously odd questions to delve deeper into the minds of these amazing authors. Let's get started. So let's get into it, if you're ready.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm worried. Let me do a shot.
Oh, hey, here we go. I'll do a shot with you, so we're even. So let's see. Let's start with one. I think this is an easy one. So if you could be any animal in the world, what would you be?
Any animal in the world.
Any animal, not a human, but any other animal.
You know what? To me, a sheepdog epitomizes like true value, and I guess the honor, courage, commitment is like our Navy core values. A sheepdog doesn't follow the flock. The flock is there, and he's just there to, protect his people. And there's still a shepherd there to tell him what to do. That's kind of how I see myself as a father and someone in the military. You're just a sheepdog. You're not setting policy or going out of your way to change things. You're just kind of there to live a good, healthy life and do your job.
Keep an eye on things. Yeah.
Keep an eye on things. Protect your family. Take care of your people.
Awesome. So how about what's the number one thing you haven't done yet that you'd love to do, if it exists?
That's a good question, because I feel pretty satisfied. I mean, I want to travel some more. I would like to hit up. I've never been to Hawaii. I want to try that out.
Oh man, if you go to Hawaii, I think probably every single part of Hawaii is amazing. But Maui and the west side of the Big Island, wow, just unbelievable spots.
Yeah, I'd like to do that. And up until last year, it was like silly stuff like travel to take the family to Disney or go on a cruise stuff, and we kind of did that. So
yeah, you knocked it out of your system there.
Yeah, I guess Hawaii would be next thing. I'd really like to visit Alaska too.
Oh man, Alaska would be awesome.
Yeah, it's just more travel. I've traveled so much with the military and the government over my life. My whole adult life I've been kind of attached to Uncle Sam, so I'd really like to get out and do my own thing.
Right. Uncle Sam takes you places whether you like it or not.
Yeah, and some are fun, but most suck. So
here's one where maybe we'll make this the last one so I don't drag you on here too long. So if you were the last person in the world, what would you do? How would you pass the time? What would a day look like for you?
Oh, that's rough.
Yeah, you're like, well, I think I'd sit on a rock and I would wonder, why did everybody have to leave so soon?
Yeah, I know. It's like, if you're the last person, I like to be alone, but not that alone. maybe find a fast car or a jet and see if I could fly it for a few minutes.
Yeah, right.
Go out with a bang.
If you could get this jet off the ground, it'd be the best 2 seconds of your life.
Yeah, I'm not philosophical enough to be like, oh, I would catalog all the world's libraries and put them in a vault or something like that. No.
Holy moly, I never even thought of that idea, but I think you're onto something.
It would probably be closer to, I would go hit up the Jack Daniel's distillery in Tennessee and then get a Ferrari and drive around until I ran out of energy. It's nothing all that great.
I don't know. The way I think that could be a lot of fun. I don't even think we have to wait until you're the last person. You could do it now.
Yeah, that's true.
But before we go, I did want to ask if you have any upcoming projects. I think we kind of alluded to a couple of them, but is there anything you'd like to mention so that listeners and readers out there could go give it a look?
Yeah. Right now I'm working on Donovan's War. That's still, the book's completed. I just said I'm trying to find a home for it. I've leaked a little bit of information out there on my Facebook page, not a lot. But one of the big things we have going up is I'll be at the Walker Stalker Con in Atlanta, which is the big Walking Dead convention down there on.
Oh, that sounds fun.
Yeah, at the end of the month here, and we're sharing a booth with Rich Baker, who has a Zed Prep series, Joseph Hansen, who has a Z-Rush zombie series, and then J.L. Bourne. I think a lot of people know him with his Day by Day Armageddon and Tomorrow War. So we'll be sharing a booth together and doing a book signing down there, and it'll be fun to get to know or get to see all those guys. I've never met them all in person, so I'm looking forward to that. And then whatever fans come up and readers, I'd like to talk to everybody. So
cool. Yeah, that sounds like a lot of fun. So where can people go to find out more about you and what you do?
Probably the opening point would just be WJLundy.com. So it's WJLUNDY.com, and I've got a great web admin, and that'll point you and filter you to everything else.
Awesome.
So right there.
That's the gate from which to go wild.
There you go. That's the gateway.
Cool. Well, WJ, I just want to say again, thank you so much for coming on the show. I really do appreciate it. I'm a personal huge fan, and it's been a thrill to get to talk to you.
Great. Thank you. Appreciate it.
So I hope you enjoyed the show today. I know I did. And thank you again to WJ for taking the time to chat with us. If you'd like to find the links that he mentioned earlier, they are easily available in the show notes, and those are found at www.williamodea.com/2. That's it for today. If you would like to be sure to never miss a show and always have them immediately available on your device of choice, you can subscribe by going to www.williamodea.com/iTunes. And if you enjoyed the show, I would so appreciate a rating and review on iTunes. They both help with store visibility, and they also let other listeners know if this show is something that they might be interested in checking out. And I've made it easy to access both of those by going to the same link on my website, www.williamodea.com/iTunes. That will have a link there that you can jump over to either subscribe and or maybe all three, rate and review the show. So I would so appreciate that. Thank you so much. That's it for now. We'll see you next week.
Thanks for listening to the OMG Book Show. You can find out more at www.williamodea.com.